To practice, you need to learn to understand the different states of Dhamma. If you do not know how to differentiate the states of mind, you cannot really do vipassana. The states of nature are form and formless, two of which you need to learn. One part is the form, another is the formless. But regardless whether you study the form or the formless, you need to develop your mind to have stability. This is the crucial point. Some people, they try to fixate on the form and the formless, and their mind is low quality. At most, you can only get the fixation absorptions. The formless and the form are just the object being aware by the mind. This is called object, mind object. But the mind is the knowing mind. The object is being known by the mind. The mind, you cannot find it. The mind has no identity, no shape. You need to train until you can get the stable, knowing, radiant mind. It's not easy, but you have the knowing mind that is stable and radiant, then it is not difficult for you to know the states of nature and see the three characteristics of nature. To practice insight meditation, you need to see the form and the formless show the three characteristics. In order to see this, you need to have a well-established, high-quality mind. And for the object, there are more than the form and the formless. The object of the mind also include the things, the thoughts, like this, thinking that this body are form of the elements. This is neither the form or the formless, but are thoughts. Some people cannot differentiate. They are lost in the world of thoughts and they cannot see the form and the formless nature. The nature of the mind can only come into contact with one state of nature in one moment at a time. But if you keep thinking, then you cannot come into contact with the form and formless nature. When you cultivate mindfulness, you will learn to come to know the form and the formless and be free from the world of thoughts. The Buddha taught that there is no other Dhamma that is as important as awareness, which is the starting point of practice to eradicate defilement and achieve enlightenment. There is no other better, more important starting point than mindfulness. The state of mindfulness is the state in which the mind is stable and detached from the world of thoughts to be an observer in the world of reality. In the world of thoughts, you can think anything. You can think that you are Miss Universe, but in reality, you are not, because that is not reality. The reality is the body and the mind. That is the truth, the reality. Now, most minds are lost in the world of thoughts. At night they dream. During the day they think about this and that. When they think, sometimes they are aware of their thoughts, sometimes they are not. When they are wandering in the world of thought, then they forget about their body and mind. Have you ever uh, experienced when you think about something and then the mosquito bite you and you don't realize, or when someone walk past you and you're not even aware that people walk past you because you were deep in thoughts, or when you were meditating under the tree and the mind wander into the breath until it forgets about the body, and the cobra comes near you and you are not even aware because the mind was focused on a kind of mind object, and as a result it forgets about the other mind objects. So when the mind is fixated on thoughts, then even if you have the body and mind, the mind cannot see, they cannot know the body and mind. The body moves and stays still, the mind is not aware. At that moment, perhaps the body can experience pleasure or displeasure or neutral states in the body and mind, but you are not aware. Wholesome and unwholesome, you are not aware. Whether the mind is with at the five senses, you're not aware, or in the thoughts, you're not aware. It's all full of don't know. So when you study under me, I always emphasize on the awakened mind, how you need to be awakened from the world of thoughts to come and live in the world of awareness. Awareness, if you're mindful, the body moves, you are aware. Whatever formless nature arise, you are aware. But if you are lost in the world of thoughts, then you are not aware of what arises in your body and mind. If you cannot see the truth of the body, of the truth of body and mind, then you cannot do vipassana or insight meditation, because that's what insight meditation is about. Vipassana is about seeing the body and mind, the truth of body and mind, rather than the thoughts. So in order to be freed from the world of thoughts, you need to be awakened. The awakened mind is a stable, knowing mind, a radiant mind. You need to practice. It's very difficult for a person who's not awakened to be awakened. But after you are awakened, then it's no longer difficult to practice vipassana or seeing the truth of body and mind. In the past, when I was a monk, when I was a new monk, I always teach that practice is easy because there's nothing more than being aware of the changing nature. Luangpu Tui, who read my book, he said that he agreed with everything that I taught, but one thing that he disagreed is that it's not easy. He said it's difficult. At the time, I felt it was easy, but now I understand when I see you all that most of the lay people are always lost in thoughts, even monks, even practicing monks. When you sit meditation, you like to fixate the mind becomes sinks into the meditation object. It becomes still with the meditation object, and the mind becomes attached to the stillness, and it refuses to cultivate wisdom. The lay people, their mind is scattered and they are lost in the world of thoughts. It's difficult for them to come out, but for those whose minds are fixated on the meditation object, it's even more difficult to pull their mind out. So that's why I believe that it is easier for people who have never practiced to gain mindfulness rather than the people who are used to fixating the mind to come back into the world of awareness. So after seeing all of you, I agree with Luangpu Tui that it is difficult. But to be more accurate, then it is better to say that it is very difficult for certain people, but it is easy for people whose mind has been awakened. The difficult part is for the unawakened mind to be an awakened mind, but after it is awakened, then it is not difficult. It depends on what you have accumulated. If you are accustomed to wrong meditation, being fixated on stillness, then it is difficult for your mind to become awakened. But if you are used to the awakening state, then it is not difficult for you to be aware of the body and mind and to see the three characteristics. It is like you're not doing anything. You just being aware of the whatever arises in the mind without intention, an automatic awareness of whatever arises in the body and mind. I practice meditation since I was 7 years old. I studied under Tanpoli from Wat Asokaram. He is considered my first master. He taught me about breathing meditation, count, breathe input, count, breathe out, count 1. He taught to count to 10 and then back down to 0. When I was young, it was difficult for me to count in reverse. So I changed and counted, breathe in Putto, breathe out To, count 1 until 100, and then restart after it hits 100. I practice with innocence without any kind of expectations. He taught me to breathe and count. That's what I did without thinking about why we do this or for what purpose, but just being happy to do it, being accustomed to do it. After practicing for not too long, the mind was calm, but the mind was not a knowing mind. At first, when I practiced, the counting disappeared only with Putto and breathing. After a while, Putto disappeared. After that, breathing starts to become more shallow until it becomes so refined that it seems that the breathing stopped. And actually, it didn't stop breathing, but it was so refined as if it came out, go through the skin. And then after that, there was light, and I was immersed in the light. Now, if your mind wanted to see anything in the light, then you can just use that mind. When I was a kid, I used that mind to see different realms and went to see the heaven, went to see angels. Then I realized that if you can see the heaven, you can also see hell and ghosts. And I didn't want to see ghosts and hell, so I remind myself to be more mindful and not let the mind sink into the light, to be aware that before the mind becomes fixated on the light. This is the initial mindfulness, to be aware whether the mind is going into the light or not. At the time I was innocent, I just didn't want to see ghosts. But actually that is training for the mind to become established in knowing and being stable and not flowing, sinking into any meditation object. So it's not about forcing the mind to be still, but being aware when the mind tries to move in the light is different to what many people is practicing. They are trying to force their mind to be still. Now, if you are aware of the mind movements, then you are aware of the uttacca, or the scattered mind, the thinking mind. Now, if you are aware that the mind is moving, then the knowing mind will appear. At the time, I did not realize this is the practice of awakening the mind. Then there was an incident near my house at the time. There was a fire near my house during my childhood. There was a garage fixing motorbikes. Then they had a flame, and the technicians were running out from the fire. One group tried to get the fire extinguisher. One group ran out. I was a kid and I was outside playing with marbles. I saw the fire and I quickly grabbed my marbles because I was possessive of my toy. And then I ran to tell my parents. The first step, I was frightened. The second, I was frightened. But the third step, I saw that the mind was frightened. When I saw that the mind was frightened, without being intentional about it, when the mind, because I trained to be aware of the mind moving into the light, so when the mind moves into the frightening, fright, not long, first step, second step, by the time of the third step, the mind saw that it moved into fright. At that moment, fright disappeared and the mind is separated and become a knowing mind. And there was no fright. So I calmly walked to tell my parents that there was a fire. I became a stable, knowing mind, but the other people became frightened and they were running around trying to handle the flame. At the time, I just observed the people moving. Now, if the masters teach you, they will tell you that when you are a stable, knowing mind, you don't see people moving, but you only see elements moving. And when you hear the sound, you don't hear the sound of people or this and that, you only hear sound. Or if you see the body, you don't see the body as you. At the time, the mind was already attached to the sense of self. If you can practice, then you can see that the body and the mind, that it is non-self. The frightened mind is just a state of mind that arises, try to stay and disappear. I kept practicing, and I was young, around about 10 years old. And when I meditated, the mind became fixated until the physical world disappeared, until there was only the mind left. After coming out from meditation, I always realized that the mind and the body are completely separate. So if you do meditation to that state, when the physical world disappears and you come back out from that meditation, you will also experience that the mind and the body are completely separate. If you train like this, then it is no longer difficult for you to walk the remaining of the path. When I was young, I didn't realize that people are different to me. I always thought that the other people also had the knowing mind that I had. When I met with Luangpu Dun, he taught me to observe the mind. At first, I looked at the mind, the happy, sad mind, wholesome, unwholesome mind arise and disappear. The mind that observes the shape, the sound, the taste, the sound, this arise and disappear. The body contact arise and disappear. That is aware of the thoughts arise and disappear until the mind comes to the eye. I realize that the eye is not you. To the ears, to the nose, to the body, feel that it is not you. This is not difficult. Many of you can do this. Many of you came to tell me that when you move your arm during brushing, you brushing the teeth, you feel that the arm is just some kind of element. When you have mindfulness, you don't see an arm, you only see an element moving, some kind of shape moving. It is neither you, animal, or mind. To see this, the mind is to be established, to be stable. I had this mind since I was 10 years old. When I was with Luangpu Dun, he taught me to observe the impermanence of the mind. Luangpu Sim, he didn't know my name. I never told him my name. I went to submit my homework without giving him my name, but he called me the knowing mind, Puru. So other people who were around there always likes to ask me why Luangpu Sim called me the knowing one. I said, I'm just know my body and mind. If your mind is the thinking mind, then you will not get real wisdom. You will only get thoughts about the body, thoughts about the three characteristics, thoughts about Dhamma, thoughts about the dependent origination. Some people can explain the concepts, but they don't understand because they don't have the knowing mind. So you need to train the mind to be stable. How to make the mind established and stable. The mind is non-self. You cannot command it to be stable. how to train. You can train, but you cannot command it. It is non-self. It means that it's not within your control, but it is a nature that can be trained. This is a kind of Dhamma. Although the mind is non-self, the mind can be trained. It is nature that can be trained. And a well-trained mind will bring you happiness, which the highest happiness is nirvana, like happiness in the absorptions, etc., but not the happiness in the world. The happiness of the five senses, six senses, dogs and cats can also do. But the happiness of a well-trained mind are things like meditation absorptions and other higher Dhamma. Like monks, when they practice, when their lust arise, because it is non-self, you cannot control it, because the body still had male hormones. When the monk try to control, then it makes them more stressful. What they need to do is to cultivate the meditation absorptions. The meditation absorptions will overpower the lust. If you cannot enter meditation absorption, you can also use contemplation. Contemplate that the body is ugly, is not beautiful. When you wake up in the morning, you need to wash your face, you need to defecate, you need to take care of it. Otherwise, if you don't shower and you don't clean it, then it is going to be very smelly and unclean. If you contemplate like this, then you can overpower lust by a little bit. But if the mind can enter meditation absorption, when the mind enter the meditation absorption, it has a higher form of happiness, and the mind will automatically see that any kind of happiness from sensual pleasure is a more coarse and lower form of happiness compared to the refined meditation state. So when you meditate, you have a meditation object, but the risk of this is that some people, they fixate on the meditation object and they become attached to the stillness. Why do they do this? Because of defilements called desire for the form and the formless. Now, if you cannot enter meditation absorption, deep meditation, then you be aware of the mind that is not stable, using momentary meditation. First step is to have a meditation object, and you remind yourself that you don't practice for stillness. You're not doing it for any kind of goodness or happiness. You're only using it as a regulation object. When I use meditation, breathing meditation. Now, if some people practice wrongly, then they will try to fixate their mind on the breaths. If you do this, then you will get the knowing mind. You only get the fixated mind. But if you practice and you don't force the mind and you just be aware when the mind moves away from the breaths. When you are aware, the knowing mind arises momentarily, and you keep doing this, and then you are fixated, and then you are aware, and or if it's scattered into thoughts, you are aware. Then the momentary mindfulness will accumulate, and over time it becomes more stable. Over time หลวงถ้าอาจารย์when I said meditation, breathing meditation, พระอาจารย์he cannot do breathing meditation because he had some nasal difficulties. He cannot breathe through the nose. So he used his body as the meditation object. He observed the body moving. He doesn't force the body to be still, but he just observed the body movements. Be aware. The body stays still. Be aware. Keep being aware of the body. Do you realize that your body moves all the time? Observe the movements within your body. The movement doesn't have to be large movements. When your chest moves from the breath, then it is a kind of movement as well. Some people, they see Pongyup or the abdomen rising and falling. Usually they make the mistake of fixating on their belly. That is not right. It's wrong meditation. It's dumb meditation. But if you observe the arising and falling of the belly, then it's like observing the body. Or if you move your hands like Luangpu Tian, then you can see movement and stopping of the movement to the steps of their hand rhythm. If you fixate on your mind, then it's wrong. Then it's no different to fixating on your belly breathing. Or if you are aware of the mind being with the meditation object or not, then it's correct. So when the body moves, when you fixate, then you only get calmness meditation. But if you are aware of the mind movements, then you will see the changing mind. Then you will see that the mind is fixating, knowing, thinking. So you have any meditation object, but the purpose is not to cultivate calmness, but to see the truth of the body and mind. But if you want to do calmness meditation, then you purposely try to keep it at one particular state. But I don't teach that often because most people in the world, they teach about the calmness meditation, but most people don't teach about insight meditation. So you can have any kind of meditation object. You don't practice for the purpose of cultivating calmness, but you practice for the purpose of cultivating insight into the truth of the body and mind, to see the mind acting as its own will, and you keep being aware. The meditation object is just like a bait, while the mind is like the fish. The purpose of fishing is not to get the bait, but to get the mind. The meditation object is like the bed where it lets the mind, the fish comes to the bed and you are aware. Most of the time, once the fish eats into the bed, the mind is stuck at the bed, but that is only calmness meditation. But if you practice for insight meditation, then you see the mind coming to the bed and then it doesn't bite the bed, or sometimes it comes to the bed, then it goes away from the bed. It's like when you use Putto Putto and you observe the mind, or you use your breathing or moving your hands. You don't fixate on the meditation object, you are only aware of the mind, if it's with the object or not, if the fish is with the bed or not. If you do breathing meditation, is the mind with breathing or is the mind doing something else? Be aware of the mind. The key thing is to be aware of the mind. The mind is fixated on the meditation object. Be aware the mind is not with the meditation object. Be aware. It's not difficult. I say it's not difficult again because it is from my habit, but in reality it's also not that difficult if you understand how the purpose of meditation is not for goodness or calmness, but the purpose is to be aware of the mind, whether the mind is fixated or the mind is wandering away from the meditation object. Keep practicing all day. When you don't need to think like work, then you can practice when the mind be with the meditation object or not be aware. Over time, the mind will become well established and stable. So this is how people who not adapt at meditation absorptions, they can gradually get meditation absorptions this way. But for those people who are adept at deep meditation and can do breathing meditation until the breath is gone and there's only the light, then you can also harness the light. You can make it as big. You can make it become super focused like a needle's head. This is called the initial and sustained application vitok vichar. And then there's rapture. And after that, you will realize that playing with this light is still a burden for the mind. Once that happens, you enter the second meditation absorption, because you let go of the initial and sustained attention. It lets go of the meditation object until it comes just to the mind. It becomes a unification of the mind, or it is called the egoti bhava. People who don't understand meditation, they will just call this egoti bhava meditation, but actually meditation arises since the different stages before. But this egoti bhava is the state of oneness, the state of mind unification on just being aware being aware, knowing, being radiant. It no longer thinks, it no longer burdens it with any kind of mind activities, it just knows. So in this state, when there are the five, six contacts, sense contacts, it's just the mind just be aware. But most people in the world today cannot access this level of meditation because their meditation is very short. You don't believe me? Then practice, try breathing. How many thoughts arose in your mind? Your mind is not with the breath. You keep thinking about this and that. So you need to use a different approach. You use the knowing mind to practice meditation, to be aware of the mind like the fish and the bait. The people who are attached to meditation are like the fish that won't let go of the bait. Now, if you can see the mind move away from the object or with the object, this is important because later on you can also see the mind move to the sixth sense base. And when you are aware of this, then whenever there's awareness, there's a stable knowing mind. And you will see that the mind and the body is separate. Especially if you can enter deep meditation. But if you do momentary meditation, then you will see the separation of the body and mind temporarily. Later on, you can also see the separation of the sensations from the mind. It is a separate state from the mind. It comes into contact with the mind. Then you also see the likes and dislikes, the good and bad thoughts. They are also separate from the mind, the knowing mind. So over time you can separate out the aggregates. But to separate out the aggregates, the mind needs to be stable enough to see that the mind comes into contact with the sense objects. Now, if you cannot see this, then first practice moral conduct. Then after that, you practice the mind. What I teach often is about the mind, the practice of the mind, the training of the mind. After you get the right meditation, then you move on to the wisdom, the knowing mind is the stable mind. The stable observing mind is the mind with right meditation. The mind with right meditation can practice wisdom cultivation. So you need to first have the moral conduct. After that, you practice being aware of your own mind. After the mind becomes a stable observer, you can cultivate wisdom. First, you can separate out the aggregates, the body and the mind. Then you can separate out the sensation from the mind. Then you can separate out the mental formations from the mind. You can also separate out the body into elements, the four elements that are moving in the space element. The sensations can also be separated out by the good and bad and neutral sensations and sensations within the body and sensations within the mind. And then you can also see that the sensations arise from the contact with the senses, including the thoughts that are can also cause the sensations to arise. So you need to get the sixth sense context to arouse to give rise to the sensation. And also you can separate out the perception that you are perceiving according to reality or not. Right perception is to see the reality as it is. Wrong perception is thinking. So right perception, it is not thinking. The mental formations, both good and bad, are not the mind. At first you see good and bad. You can separate out the good mind that you try to cultivate, the good mind that arises automatically through good habit or some kind of good mental states. You need to try to develop it. Or even bad minds that are anger, greed, delusion. You can separate out more and more. Or the knowing mind. The knowing mind also separates out that the mind that comes into contact with the sixth sense base. This is called consciousness. The ability to come into contact with the sense objects. So in the five aggregates, there's body, sensation, mental formation, perception, and consciousness. So the consciousness is at the five sixth sense base, and you can slowly separate out the aggregates in more refined manner. Just see what you can see. You don't need to see in detail. You do not to see everything. So most of you cannot see the infinite consciousness, cannot see the infinite nothingness. So you just observe what you can observe, and regardless of how refined you observe, you can see everything being subjected to the three characteristics, and the mind keeps wandering to the sixth sense base, and it all shows the three characteristics. Keep practicing until one day it shows you that there is no sense of self. And that's when you become a stream enterer. And when you die, it will not sink into the sense object. It's like the mind doesn't have a sense objects, but it has sense objects, but it doesn't become fixated. So to be reborn, the mind needs to become fixated on the sense object. It still needs to strive for the sense object. But when you can let go of the mind, then the mind will not fixate on any sense object. It will just be aware. Enough for today. At first, I wanted to teach easily, but I teach more detail because พระอาจารย์กฤษ sits in front of me, so the Dhamma is appropriate for the person. So next time อาจารย์กฤษ can go sit at the back of the room next time. Just now, who were laughing? Were you aware that you were laughing? None of you. I gave you so long sermon, but you don't see yourself. Now you're laughing again. Were you aware of yourself laughing? It's okay to be aware right after you laugh. But if you were aware you were laughing this evening, then it's not good. To observe the mind is different from observing the body. Observing the mind, you need to let the mental state arise and pass away first. But you cannot simultaneously be aware of the laughing mind because the mind arises one moment at a time. Number one, I practice formal practice and moral conduct and breathing meditation. Luangpo cleared my attachment to the light, and I kept practicing. I feel distance from the breathing. You also advised me to have critical observation or reflection. Please advise me.
การภาวนานะหยาบ
To practice, whether coarse or refined, the results are the same. So you don't need to know refined. If you can be aware of the coarse states of mind, it also teach you the three characteristics. The refined states also shows the same three characteristics. No need to try to make it refined, and don't be afraid of being attached to any states. Even the non-returner, they are attached. Like they don't let the mind sink into any sense object, but they try to preserve the knowing mind. The world moved by the mind is still, and they don't see this. They think this is the liberation way, but actually that's the pitfall. So it doesn't matter if you practice refined or coarse, but the more important thing is your mind is outside now. Are you aware? Then what to do? You are trying to manipulate the mind now. Greed leads the way now. If the mind goes outside and thinking, be aware. Just be aware with equanimity. When you have equanimity, it is stable also, but not trying to be equanimous. Whether the mind is a good or bad mind, wholesome, refined or coarse, is not important. The importance is to be aware of the mind, whether it is stable or not. If it's not well established, then it will fabricate. But if it's well established, stable, knowing mind, then it's a usable mind, but you cannot intend to be equanimous. Keep practicing. Just now was good, but now it's not. Just now was good, but now it's not good. Now it's a bit tense to try to gather the mind. You have greed to try to control yourself. Number two, don't worry about fixating. Number two, I want to practice correctly. I don't want to practice wrong. I practice every day. I use Putto. Whenever I intend, there's weight in my heart. That's correct, Luangpo said. When I try to make it light, the defilements overcome me. So I then practice Putto, be aware, listen to you, seeing that there's no self, trying to become good, keep fighting, please advise me. Good, keep practicing. There is no self, so why would you need to care about making it good? Because that's you. That's why you want to be. But it's okay to want to be good at the start. But if you start by saying you don't want to be good, then definitely you will go to the wrong way. You are still forcing yourself too much, being attached to self too much. Can you see that the mind cannot be controlled? Number one, you are lost. Number three, I learn from the daily contact. See I try to practice, be aware, and not let the mind be attached. I sit meditation. I don't get lost in my thoughts. I see the thoughts arise and go. Later on, I don't feel I make progress. I seem to be stuck in stillness. What you practice is good. Your mind is calm. It's okay. It's normal. It's a side effect of practice. But whether you are attached to the stillness is whether or not you like it. If you are aware that you like the stillness, then you don't have to fear stillness. Stillness is a normal byproduct of practice. But if number three, you are very good, your aggregates separate out in a very refined manner is good. You don't have to worry that you're not making progress. It's like eating. Just keep eating and one day you'll be full. But if you want to make progress, then it will become anxious. Can you see that the aggregates separate out? Good. It's not easy to come to this point. Very few can come to this point. Good, keep practicing, but don't greed. Number four. In formal practice, I pray and walk meditation 30 minutes. During the day, I observe the mind likes and dislikes, want and not want. I sit meditation, but I'm afraid of fixating, so I do movements. You keep practicing, you become more better. When you walk meditation, it can also fixate. Most people who walk, they fixate. They don't walk with awareness. They don't walk by seeing the body and having the knowing mind. Now your mind is lost. It's flowing. Have a meditation object. Be aware of the body. Be aware. Later on, whatever arises in the mind, just be aware. Don't over-intend. Don't think too much. Just be aware. Don't think. Number four, are you Thai? Yes. Your practice is similar to the Chinese. They like to think a lot. They are smart, so they think a lot. But Dhamma cannot be gained from thoughts or from forcing.
ยิ้ม
You
หวาน
need
เฉ
to be
ย
aware. Smile.
สังเกตไหมตรงที่เรายิ้มเนี่ยมันยังมีตัวหนึ่งนิ่งๆอยู่ข้าง
Observe
ใน
that when you smile,
นั่
there
นแหละ
is
คือตัว
a
ที่ผิดอยู่
stillness
เรา
in
อยากรัก
your
ษา
mind. That
รักษา
is
จิต
where
ให้
you
มัน
go
นิ่งๆอยู่นะ
wrong. You try to
ไม่
preserve
ไม่ผิด
this
อะไรมากหรอก
stillness.
ใหม่ๆเป็นทุกคนแหละ
It's
แต่ให้
not
รู้ว่าเรายัง
that
ติด
wrong
ประคอง
because
จิต
most
ตัวนี้อยู่
people try to maintain
จิตมัน
this
ยังไม่เป็น
stillness
ธรรม
when they
ชาติ
start
100%
off, but you just need to be
ไม่
aware
ต้อง
that
คิดเอานะ
this is a
ไม่ต้องพ
natural,
ยายาม
this is
ทำ
not
พยายาม
a
ปุ๊บ มัน
natural
จะแ
mind.
น่นๆทันทีเลย
Don't try. When you
พอมันแน่น
try,
ขึ้นมาก็รู้ทัน
your chest becomes
แสดงว่า
tight.
เราเข้าไปแทรกแซงจิตแล้ว
When it becomes tight, then you be aware that you are
ถอย
trying
ขึ้นมา
to
อย่าจมลงไป
intervene in the mind.
ถอย
Come
ขึ้น
back
มา
out. Don't sink
ให้มันอยู่ใน
into
ความปกติ
the mind. Come out to the normal mind.
ตรง
like
นี้เพ่ง
that.
นะ
Now you're fixating.
ถลำลงไปจ้อง อย่าไปเพ่งเอา
You
รู้สึก
are sinking into the
ไปรู้ร่างกาย
meditation
ที่เคลื่อนไหว
object.
บ่อยๆ นะ
Go be
ร่างกาย
aware
ขยับ
of
รู้สึ
the
ก ร่างกาย
body
ขยับรู้สึก ทำ
movements.
อย่างนี้เรื่อยๆ นะ เดี๋ยวมันจะ
Keep
ก้าว
doing
หน้าได้
that and you will make progress.
เบอร์ 5 เข้าฌานไป
Number
แล้ว
5, you entered jhana.
เบอร์ 5
Number
เป็นโม
5,
หะจริต
กลับมาอยู่
I
กับโลก
have
มนุษย์เลย
delusion. Yes,
เข้าไป
come out to the
หลวง
human
พ่อ
world.
ได้ให้ใช้กายเป็นวิหารธรรม
You
เมื่อ
told
เพิก
me
ถ
to
อนจาก
use
อาการ
body
นิ่งๆใน
as
สัมผัส
the
ก็พบ
meditation
ว่าจิตมี
object.
ความฟุ้งซ่าน
After I
ปรุง
come
แต่
out
งหนัก
from
กว่า
the
เดิมมาก
fixating, my
สัง
mind
เกต
was
อารมณ์
very
ต่างๆ ที่
scattered.
ถูกจิตรู้ได้เท่าทัน
My
ในระหว่าง
mind,
วัน ถึงแม้ว่าจะดับไป
I
ก็จริง
tried to
แต่ยัง
see
รู้สึก
it,
ว่าจิตไม่ได้
but
ตั้ง
I
มั่น
feel that the
เหมือนเป็น
mind
กา
is
รรับ
not
รู้ที่ไม่ตั้ง
stable,
มั่น
but it's
ไม่ทราบ
like
ว่า
being
มีกำลัง
aware
เพียง
without
อีกครั้งหรือเปล่า
stability. Please advise
ให้
me.
จิตออกมาสิ
Come out.
ก้มหน้าหน่อย
Mm, mm,
รู้สึกตัวไว้
Incline your head. Be
อย่า
aware.
เดี๋ยวมันเคลิ้มไป
Don't do that.
โมหะเราเยอะ
Your mind is going
กระ
to
ดุกกระดิกไป
trance.
รู้สึกไปหางาน
You
ทำ
have
ไป
a lot
กา
of
รที่ใช้ร่าง
delusion,
กาย
so you need
ทำ
to
งานไปเห็นร่างกาย
use
ทำงานไป
body movements.
ที่วัดเนี่ย เย็นๆ
In
นะ
this
เวลา
temple,
กวาดวัดเสร็จ
the
แล้วทำวัด
monks,
เสร็จแล้วไปออกไปรดต้นไม้ไปปลูก
after
ป่า
chanting in the evening, they
ร่าง
go
กายมันทำงาน
and plant the
ใจมี
trees
ความ
and
รู้
they
สึก
observe the body.
ดีกว่าไปนั่งสมาธิแล้วก็จมลง
It's
ไปสงบ
better
เฉ
than
ยๆนะ
sitting
เบอร์ 5
meditation
มาก
and
รู้สึก
falling into
อ
a
ยู่กับโลกไว้
trance.
อย่าหนี
Number 5,
อย่าหล
don't
บอย่างนี้หนีไปเลย
stay in the world. Don't go
ไม่ดีหรอก
into
ทำงั้น
some meditation state.
รู้สึกไปร่างกายข
It's
ยับ
not good. Be aware of the
หางา
body
นบ้านทำนะ
movements. Find a
กวาดบ้าน
household
ถูบ้าน
activity
ทำโน่น
like
ทำนี่ไป
cleaning
เห็น
the
ร่างกายมัน
house
ทำงานไปเรื่อย
and
ๆ
observe
เบอ
the
ร์
body cleaning. Number 6.
เบอร์
Number
6 จิต
6.
ยังยึดจิตอยู่
The
จึง
mind
ปล่อย
grabs
วาง
at the
กายได้
mind.
มากขึ้น
The
เชื่อว่า
mind
กายนี้
can
ชั่ว
let go
คราว
of the
เป็น
body
เพียงธาตุสี่
quite well.
เป็นอิส
See
ระ
that the
ขึ้น
body
เมื่อ
is
ปล่อย
four
มือจากอดีต
elements.
และอนาคต ก็กลับไป
I
อยู่
feel
กับ
more
ปัจจุบัน
freedom when I
เมื่อ
let
เห็น
go
จิต
of
ผู้
the
รู้เป็น
past
เพีย
and
ง
the
สังขาร
present and to
อัน
be
ไม่เห
in
ลืออะไร
the
ให้ดู
past and the future
ส่ว
to
น
be
ที่
in
พบ
the
ว่าไม่
present.
มีอะไรแล้ว ก็ยังพู
I
ด
see
ได้
that
ว่าไม่มีอะไร จิตเข้าใจ
there's
ว่าทุกอย่าง
nothing
ล้วน
but
เป็น
it's
สังขาร
still
จึงไม่มีผู้ปฏิบัติ
uh,
ขอหลวงพ่อแนะนำค่ะ
narrating.
อย่าให้ปัญญามันล้ำหน้านะ
Don't let your
ไอ้
wisdom
โน่นก็ไม่มีไอ้นี่ก็ไม่มี
uh,
มันจะตกไป
go
สู่
too
มิจฉาทิฏฐิ
advanced.
อีกตระกูลหนึ่ง
If
นะ
you think
ทุกอย่างไม่
about
มีอะไรๆก็ไม่มี
there's nothing, then you could fall
พระพุทธเจ้า
into
ไม่ได้ส
the
อนว่าอะไรๆก็ไม่มีนะ
wrong view of there's
ทุกสิ่ง
nothing.
ทั้งหลายมีเหตุมันก็
The
มี
Buddha
เกิ
never
ดเหตุ
taught
มันก็ดับ
that
บั
there
ง
is
คับมันไม่ได้
nothing. He
ไม่ใช่
only
ทุกอย่างไม่มี
taught that when there's a factor, there's
อ
a
ย่าให้ปัญ
result.
ญามัน
He
ล้ำไป
never taught that there's
รู้สึก
nothing.
เบสิ
Don't
ก
let
สำคัญ
your
ที่สุดนะ
mind,
รู้
don't
สึก
let
ไป
your wisdom
อยู่กับ
go
ปัจจุ
too
บัน
far
เป็นข
ahead
ณะ
of
ขณะไป
itself.
เรื่อย
Come back
ๆมัน
and
จะพั
be
ฒนา
aware of each
แต่ถ้าปัญ
moment.
ญาล้ำไอ้นั่นก็ไม่มี
Strengthen
นี่ก็
your
ไม่มีบางคน
basic.
ไปภาวนาไอ้นั่น
Like
ก็
some
ว่างไอ้นี่ก็ว่างทุก
people,
อย่างว่างรว
they
มแล้วไม่ทำอะไร
try
เลย
to say that everything
โย
is
มทำไม่ได้ป
empty,
ฏิบัติ
so to do
นี่
nothing,
ปัญญาล้ำไปไม่ดีนะ
that is not
รู้
good.
สึกร่างกาย
That
ไปมัน
is
คิดเยอะ
wisdom getting ahead of
ปัญญามัน
itself.
ล้ำไปแล้ว
Keep being
เบอร์
aware
7
in the present. Number 7.
เบอร์ 7
Number
รักษา
7.
ศีล 5 ใน
I
ระหว่างการ
try
เดินจ
to
งกรม
preserve
เจ
the
ริญส
moral
ติ
conduct.
รู้สึกตัวตล
I
อด
use
วัน
walking
รู้
my
สึกอา
walking
การที่
meditation.
กาย
I sense the air comes into contact with the body. I see the thinking mind. After that, it becomes fixated. Sometimes I wonder if I'm really aware of my thoughts. My mindfulness is still weak. Your practice is correct. Keep practicing, and the mindfulness will become better and faster. Have perseverance. Keep practicing. It's not wrong. Just don't try to still the mind. Don't try to incline towards stillness. Let it be and just keep being aware according to its normal nature. When the time comes, just pray and practice calmness meditation. Number 8. Number 8. I practice breathing meditation as well as walking meditation. I use body and mind as the meditation object. I'm prone to anger. I see ego, see thoughts as much as I can. Sometimes it is automatic awareness, sometimes it is not neutral. When it becomes aware and comes back to the breath and to the body movements, you are still trying to still the mind. Like now, you are trying to make it still. Don't force the mind. Let go. Let the mind work and just be aware of it. You are trying to control the mind. Number 7, your mind is wandering. Number 7, can you see the body move? Be aware. Number 7, you have a lot of good points, but you need to have more patience. The body moves, be aware, and the rest will develop by itself. You have a lot of wisdom, so you don't have to worry about wisdom now. But if your mind is not stable, then the wisdom will become lost in Dhamma. Number 7, you need to be aware that you are too engrossed in Dhamma. Enough for today. Go home.